Hi, my name is Judy Alston and I run an arts organisation called One-to-One Development Trust. We have bases in Wakefield and Peterborough, but work all over the UK and sometimes abroad too. We use digital technologies to work with communities and groups to create films, apps, websites, online experiences, and virtual reality and games. I'm really pleased to be able to share my story with you today for this event. I'm going to talk about what it was like setting up a business as a young woman, what it's like working in the arts and creative sectors at the moment, and showing you some examples of our projects, and talking to you about the wider arts and technology sectors. I can remember at a careers event at school being asked what I wanted to do. I didn't really know, but I told the careers teacher I liked working with people and being creative. I was advised I should be a nurse or work in human resources in an office. Neither really excited me, to be honest. I drifted into an office job in London. I used to commute from Peterborough and loved travelling to London and being able to explore the city in my lunchtime. But the job itself was so boring. After 6 months, the company moved to Peterborough and the exciting bits of the job, being in London, ended. When I was in sixth form, I never thought about going to university or doing a degree, as it was just expected that I'd get a job. But in the first year of working, my dad suddenly died and my world was torn apart. I knew I had to do something else. So I applied to universities and colleges in hope of doing a degree in something exciting, and I wasn't really too bothered what. I went to an art college called Bretton Hall, part of Leeds University, to do a 3-year degree called InterArts. It included art in many different forms, sociology and psychology. It changed my life, mainly because it opened up my eyes to the possibility of a career in the arts and how you can mix doing things you love with a job. This, for me, at the time, was a revelation. The college had just bought a video camera. This makes me sound very old now, but at the time, in the mid-1980s, the only people generally who made films were TV companies, big film studios or keen amateur filmmakers. This seems a million miles away from now, where everyone can film anything on their mobile phone. But I embraced the video camera and started making films as part of my course. When I graduated, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so my friend and I decided to set up a video company for a year. It was so exciting thinking of setting up our business. We won an award from Barclays Bank for the best business idea and got a grant from the Prince's Youth Business Trust to buy video equipment. I loved it. But after a year, my friend decided she wanted a more regular job, and I decided to continue until a time when I thought I'd get a proper job myself. 32 years later, and I've finally realised that this actually is my proper job. And I do feel very proud I created it myself. One of the things about working for yourself is that you have to do everything, not just the exciting bits of the job, which for me was going out making films, but there's the admin, the buying, the bookkeeping, everything. In the 1980s to the mid-90s, video cameras were very big and heavy. Even the batteries that went in them were heavy, and you wore them as a battery belt. Independent filmmaking was gaining momentum, but it was still unusual for a young woman being a camera person. I remember often turning up to film something, and the person who greeted me would assume I was a secretary or personal assistant, and would say, "When's the cameraman turning up?" The biggest challenge was filming a public event if there were TV camera crews there. I remember once I was filming someone speaking at a protest march, and a TV cameraman literally picked me up and moved me out of his way because I had a better vantage point than him. This type of sexism and arrogance has hopefully improved since then, For me, it was and still is important to always challenge behaviour like this. Filmmaking opened up a possibility to do lots of travel, but not as a tourist. I would find ways or opportunities to make films in places that I'd never normally have gone, like my first television commission in Bosnia, making a documentary film about an aid convoy and running an art project in a school with children who'd been living through the war. One of my favourite filming trips was to Bhutan in the Himalayas, because it was just so beautiful and the people were so kind. The types of films I make are documentaries, usually for charities, education, or for using in the health and heritage sectors. What I have realised is that wherever I've gone in the world, it's the same things that are important and inspire me. That is, people's stories, their resilience, and the kindness people show to each other and the planet. One of the things I find really amazing when I think back to my years running a business is how technology has changed during this time period. When I started out, there were no PCs, Macs for normal use. No internet, no mobile phones, no tablet devices, no digital cameras, no augmented reality or virtual reality. All these things have had a huge impact on me and my organisation. Technology is moving faster than ever, and to stay competitive in this field of work means that you can never sit back and take anything for granted. There is always new stuff to learn and new stuff to do. Over the years, as my organisation has grown, we don't just now make films, but we create websites, online experiences, apps, augmented reality, games and virtual reality. Basically, we embrace any digital technology to work with groups and tell stories, particularly with a heritage or health and well-being slant. It's the variety of work and technology that keeps my job interesting. And to keep it developing, you always have to think out of the box and address new challenges. I thought I'd show you a couple of projects where this has very much been the case. Zero Gravity Lunar Library. We won a commission to create a piece of digital artwork that would sit alongside Luke Jerram's Museum of the Moon, a floating moon that has toured all over the world. Wakefield's Festival of the Moon 2019 marked 50 years since the moon landing. We wanted to create something with a wow factor where we could engage lots of people at a live event. So we hit on the idea of Zero Gravity Lunar Library. We had 10 weeks from getting the commission to blast off. We made the experience using gaming technology. We got community groups involved, writing reviews about which book you'd like to take on a trip to the moon and why. We put the actual book covers with our participants' reviews on the back into the shuttle. We produced 10 short films interviewing local people about what the moon means to them. These were used as part of our social media campaign leading up to the festival. To make the project look authentic, we used models of the International Space Station and an asset from the NASA Public Domain Archive. We connected one of the screens at the front of the ship in the cockpit to a PC webcam so that people could see themselves wearing the headset. We decided that our visitors could land on the moon, but they would be working against the clock to plant their flag in the moon. This meant they either ran out of oxygen or succeeded in planting their flag. Whatever the result, it meant that they had a good quality experience, but were nicely moved on for the next person to have a go. Very important to think about things like this when you have hundreds of people queuing for their turn. Redbox. We got asked if we would create an art installation in a small art gallery to commemorate the Second World War. What made this project so exciting is that the art gallery was an old red phone box on a busy street outside a pub that had been turned into a space to exhibit. We began the project collecting stories on film and on audio from people who remembered the Second World War or people who had had relatives in the war. We focused on stories that were funny, sad, poignant, and that we hoped people today would find interesting. We created the artwork for the windows of the phone box based on photographs and text we'd gathered. This was easier said than done. Because of the big drop in temperature at night, the artwork had to stand getting cold and damp. But we didn't want to just have images on the glass. We wanted the whole phone box to tell a story. So we took photos of local important buildings and recreated them into two-dimensional sculptures. We added a sound system to the phone box that made siren noises and triggered stories to be played. And at night, the phone box lit up with searchlights, panning inside it, like that were used in the war. People travelled miles to see Redbox. It pushed us artistically and technically. The exhibition lasted for 5 months. We then created an online version of Redbox as a 360-degree interactive online experience to keep the legacy of the project going. With both Zero Gravity Lunar Library and Redbox, we had to draw on so many different skills to make our creative vision happen. We had to understand physics in the spacecraft. We had to use maths in calculating the space within the phone box to plan our exhibition and for staying within budget. We drew on DIY building skills to create a frame inside the phone box, and we programmed a Raspberry Pi to run a soundtrack within certain times. We describe our work as being part of the creative sector. This includes things like film, design, games, publishing, IT, music, and performing arts. Sometimes people don't value the arts as it can be seen as a luxury. But when you think about it, every book or magazine you read, every track of music you listen to, every film on Netflix or TV series, podcast, radio programme, video game, billboard you see in the street, clothes you wear, art on your walls, furniture in your house, websites you visit, have all been made by people working in the creative industries. Some areas are growing really fast, like the games industry, and it's important that this sector has more women working in it. 52% of gamers were female in the UK's last major study in 2014. But if we look at the proportion of female workers in the games industry, it's only just 28% in the UK and roughly 20% worldwide. With so many women playing games, why are so few making them? Well, some people don't see game making as a proper job, or it's still seen as more of a boy thing. 88% of students on video games courses were male in 2017-18. This imbalance needs addressing, but the stats show it is a sector worth considering working in. Intel, for instance, invested $300 million towards female diversity in the games division. They have also committed to double the number of women working as developers in the next decade. There is so much scope to work in the creative industries, and it is one of the fastest growing sectors in the country. In 2018, there were more than 2 million people working in the creative industries in the UK. This is 11.8% of all businesses. The value of the arts and the cultural sector to the UK economy is £13.5 billion. So, a career in the creative industries may be worth considering. I hope you've enjoyed this talk and it's given you an insight into working into the arts and creative industries.